jump in as we go. So, hi everyone. Kwingana Lomwa Alyssa Deshinti, ni Nonjai Almapawi Lakawi, ni Hab Dalmapawi Wakami Menzi Dekwa. So, welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Alyssa, and I am from and joining you virtually from my traditional territory of Moraviantown, Delaware Nation, and I proudly identify as Lenape. So we are able to gather here today as a result of the Indigenous Primary Healthcare Council, or the IPHCC. So for those who don't know, IPHCC is an Indigenous government, cultural-based, and Indigenous-informed organization. So our key mandates is to support the advancement and evolution of Indigenous primary healthcare services throughout Ontario. So we currently work with 22 primary healthcare organizations to address the physical, spiritual, emotional, and mental well-being of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. So within IPHCC, I serve as the mental health and wellness coordinator. So this Lunch and Learn is one of the mental health and wellness initiatives. The main goal is to support the wellness and taken into consideration the holistic well-being of individuals. So here at IPHCC, our main philosophy is cultural is healing. So this is just one example in the ways that we have been showcasing our cultural as Indigenous people. So before we welcome our guests, I also just wanted to let everyone know that we will be dedicating the last portion of this session for questions and answers. So at any point, please feel free to share any thoughts or questions into the chat function, and we'll get to them at the very end. So with that being said, IPHCC is proud to introduce you to two of our guests today, Gillian Prince and Crystal Kimewon. So Gillian is Anishinaabe and Ojibwe from the Matagami First Nations. Gillian is an Indigi queer traditional hand poke tattoo practitioner, and Gillian's main goal with offering traditional markings is to assist Indigenous peoples in feeling confident and comfortable in their identity, as well as a priority to hold safe and secure space for 2SLGBTQIA+ individuals. So Gillian is accompanied by Crystal. So Crystal is a Ojibwe Anishinaabe from the Wickwemicon First Nation, and her passion has always been helping people heal through the arts. So as a certified tattoo artist, Crystal's focus is in helping people reclaim their cultural and heritage through traditional tattooing. So please join me in welcoming Gillian and Crystal. Nishik.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. I just want to before we get started, I just want to say thank you to everyone who took the time out of their day to come be with us today. Like they mentioned, we're going to keep the last 10-15 minutes or so for question answering, hopefully. We'll see how much time we got left, but I do recommend, since it's a lot of discussion, to keep track of your questions kind of as we go. And I also just want to say we validate everyone's different experiences, opinions, and stories when it comes to the topics that are being shared. And just know that this is a safe space for all. So just take care of yourself during this and after. I'm not too sure if there's going to be any triggering topics, but just keep that in mind. Everyone's different. Yeah, we'll get started. We'll begin with some introductions. Crystal, if you want to take it away.
Ani. Bidabano Gishgo Kwedishna Kas Megzedodem. As was mentioned, I'm from Wickwemicon territory. My English name is Crystal Kimewon. I am Ojibwe. I am Eagle Clan. Yeah, I have come into tattooing from the helping field. So I have a degree in Indigenous social work as well from Laurentian. So I was a helper of a different form and from a different lens prior to coming into traditional tattooing. I am a mother of two. I have a son and a daughter, currently living in Toronto, but travel often. I'm very happy and honored to be here to be able to share a little bit of our journey into traditional tattooing. And I believe that's it. Gillian. Miigwech.
Miigwech. My English name is Gillian, but I was given the name Wabanongos by my grandma, Clara. I'm 25. I'm from Otago First Nation. I also like to give shout outs to Nipissing First Nation and Okies due to my grandmothers and the land. I currently reside in North Bay with my partner, just as Crystal. We travel around, we're little travelers. But yeah, also on the other hand, I work in the social work field. I do not tattoo full time. I work at a women and children's shelter on Nipissing First Nation.
How did I start tattooing? For me, I picked up machine tattooing through COVID, through the pandemic. A lot of us can remember the isolation and the disconnection from our circles of support and family and community. So I really kind of just buried myself into machine tattooing and expressing myself through the art of and practice of machine tattooing. Without going into great detail, many could probably relate to just the struggles the pandemic brought. For me, it resulted into the disconnection from my supports, my community, my children, having living down south and working frontline for then it was Six Nations, and losing so many of my clients who had fell back into addiction because of the lack of support. So there was a real lack of supports, which in turn resulted, I was studying for my MSW and fell back into addiction after 18 years. So this was the start of my picking up tattooing in that darkness, if you will. Now, keep in mind, this was traditional tattooing, and I struggled with that throughout the early parts of the pandemic. And then there was so much loss close to family. My partner had lost his niece first, his sister a few months later, and it resulted in me eventually losing him to overdose. So with all of that being said, I'm on Facebook one day and I see this Tandinega Indigenous Tattoo Gathering. And I'm like, Indigenous Tattoo Gathering, traditional Indigenous Tattoo Gathering. Now, I remember Isaac Murdoch had hosted one many years ago in the Nimki Ajbekun. And I was working frontline then, and I went to go and support from a I guess bloodborne pathogens approach and offered biobins and what I could from our organization. But that's how I found myself in traditional tattooing. So I always say it was my grief, my own grief of having lost so much. And in this dark, dark place, probably so many know that loss can bring, and not really knowing why I was going there, just knowing I felt a pull to go. Now, keeping in mind, my partner and I learned to machine tattoo together. He had done tattooing within the prison system and taught me out here. And I always had a love and a passion for tattooing ever since I was a young teenager. And it's unfortunate because everyone that I've spoken to about tattooing or dreamed of tattooing is no longer here. So they've all died related to gun violence, addiction, all of what that brings. So there was a lot of grief and a lot of hurt and a lot of mending that needed to be done when I found myself walking into traditional tattooing. So in Tandinega, my first year, I'm like, wow, we're on the land. There's so much bugs too, because it was a little later in the summer, like big bugs. And we're in this big open field and it's so dry. It was almost like I could acquaint it when you go in a lodge, there's that sense of in sweat lodge, that sense of going into ceremony, that letting go, that hot, like I don't want to be here. But you kind of force yourself to stay. That first year I met Kanahus, I met a lot of pillars within the traditional tattooing community. And we opened that gathering in a circle. So we check in as artists and attendees. We did a little sharing circle. I said, I don't know why I'm here. I said, I'm hurting. I'm grieving. I'm struggling with my own dark, but I know I just felt pulled to be here. And I was welcomed by the community. I shared I'm a helper. I do machine tattooing. I'm Eagle Clan. So the first start was my clan marking and my helper. So my clan marking is Eagle, my helper is Bear. Oddly enough, Bear was my partner's Dodem as well. So I remember getting those markings and talking and visiting and connecting with other practitioners, or then they were just practitioners. I wasn't another. And there was an invite. There was an invite that early in that space that I was in to keep doing what I was doing, to keep healing myself so that I could come back next year and tattoo alongside them. In that space of kind of struggling with addiction, your sense of self-worth and pride in who you are, it was like, no, I'm not coming back here. Like, I didn't even believe I would find myself in that space. Fast forward a few months, I had some women come to me for markings. Oddly enough, like, I didn't advertise or share that this was the path I found myself on, but I had women coming to me for, can you bring this marking to life? You know, they knew I had gone, and just the experiences and sharing. And this is the beautiful thing about sharing your journey, is you connect with people on similar paths. So I really believe when you walk in your truth, you have that ability to connect with other people who are on a similar journey. Now, I had done some face markings after that first year of going to tattoo ceremony, had done little clan markings and whatnot, and just kind of dipping my feet, but also still healing, accessing ceremonies and sweats back home in Northern Ontario when I would go back home. And my helpers were always very inviting, no matter the space you were in. So I'd hang around lodge, but I was still struggling. Maybe I didn't have those 4 days. This was early on. And they'd say, you come in, I got big shoulders, sister. I can carry what you're bringing in. So I would go in. Wouldn't recommend going in that early in recovery, but for me, I think it was needed. So there was a fusion of Western helping and Indigenous helping in my early stages of learning to traditional tattoo. Now, I'll never forget this one family, this one powerhouse group of women. I had been tattooing them the machine for a little bit, and she comes to me and she says, I'd like you to bring our markings to life. I said, no, I don't want to do that, because I really looked up to these. And if you, many of us could relate, when you have a strong Anishinaabe, Kwe, and helper, I think it's just our own, I always equate it to like dogs. When dogs are in front of an alpha dog and their tail kind of goes between their legs, that's a little bit how I felt in front of this helper. But also I still had a lot of healing to do. And I said, no, not me. And she goes, that's what I said too, but I keep seeing it, right? And even her like that. So I had the women come into my home, my space. They brought their drums. The mom brought her eagle fan, and she did the work on her daughters. And I'm there, and I'm just bringing these markings to life for this group of women, a mother and her daughters. And I'm trying not to cry because it was such a moving experience to be a part of. And I'm trying to I need to do this work. I need to do this work. And she said, don't hold yourself back, because this is healing for you too. And that was pivotal for me. That was pivotal, seeing this connection between a mother and her daughters, because I didn't have that. So there's that transference of healing that is exchanged in this process. And that's one thing that I really connect with. So that's how I got into traditional tattooing, was through my own grief, my need for healing and connection, being accepted by my tattoo brother and sisters, I call them. We're family. It's taken me to South Dakota. I've been to gatherings in South Dakota. So once I started looking at this work and really feeling like this is what I'm supposed to be doing, I started listening more. I started traveling to those spaces that offer this, because it's fairly new in our area. I called up my brother one time. I says, you want to go to South Dakota? Who said organized a gathering out in by Pine Ridge at Indian Reservation, South Dakota. And we got in the car and we drove. And knowing the healing exchange that happens in this work, I went for my connection bands and my protection bands, both on my arms and legs. And I had Kanahus and another practitioner, Mina from California. She did my legs, Kanahus did my arms. So the intention behind those markings was to protect me and the healing that I still needed to do, but also to protect myself from whatever is sitting in front of me when that transference of energy that is happening when you tattoo. It's a real spiritual experience for me. Every practitioner is different. Yeah, it's taken me South Dakota, BC. I was just down in California for another gathering. And you sit, and something that still sticks with me it might have been the second or third year in Tyendinaga. We're coming into our fourth year now with that gathering down in Tyendinaga. One of our tattoo brothers, Dion, he's started a podcast, Transformative Markings, I believe it's called. Eh, Gillian? If you have a chance, check it out. He interviews multiple practitioners all across Turtle Island, and I believe it's available on Spotify now. And I remember talking to him at Tyendinaga. I said, "Don't you ever get tired? Like, this is big work. This is big work. I'm seeing it's big work." And he said, Creator, in very loosely, what he had said was, if you look at it as a responsibility, then it doesn't get as exhausting as going to work in a 9 to 5. When you look at Creator's giving you these gifts and you finally picked up that bundle, now you have a responsibility to travel and fly, or if there's an artist in town that needs space and a place to sleep, you're opening your doors. It's a shift. When you look at something as it's my responsibility to do this, as mothers, it's our responsibility to take care of these children. We find that energy to keep going. We find that momentum to keep going. That's how I got into this. That's how I've learned to explore it. What inspires me is every single person I meet is on a different level in their journey. They're on a different stage in their journey. People's innate ability to dig within themselves to find their own healing, however that looks. That's what inspires me. My own ability to crawl up from the depths of where I was struggling and to be able to heal. What does marking revitalization mean to me? It means that we're picking up our own tools. Now, Ojibwe's carried a lot of face markings, like Chijajigo, a long time ago. There's early writings of missionaries coming across, and they'd write about the things they saw here in North America and take it back over there. And there's writings of a lot of face markings, markings for visions on the side of our temples in different areas. Ojibwe tribes, Cayuga, they had their own markings. So it was always there, but colonization took that from us. There were times when we could not practice ceremony and our ways of being and doing, so it was hidden. You can't really hide face markings, right? So those would be moved to different areas of the body that were not readily visible. So I think it's a powerful statement of, I'm still here as Ojibwe. I am still here. You could not take this from me. There's a real transformation that happens. And I think Gillian can attest to this as well. When, we even just put that line work on the woman's face. We put those markings on people's arms, the bands. They look in the mirror and I say, go look, go look. And you could see just in that mirror, I've witnessed it, the energy shift in the room. It's powerful. It's an honor to be a part of, and it's a responsibility that I take very seriously. What does it mean for me? It means I'm helping you and others come into a spiritual level of self, if that makes sense. When I was down in California, those pictures will be shared later. Maybe I'll wait to talk about that then. But that's what it means for me. Every practitioner, it means something different for us. You have Kana, who she does a lot of the frontline warrior, land protector markings, very strong, bold statement pieces. Every one of us comes from a different lens with this medicine, and that's the beautiful part. And that's all I got to say about that. I feel like that was a little bit long.
That's okay.
Gillian, your turn.
It was perfect. Thank you. You covered so much. How did I start tattooing? I have always been fascinated regarding, I guess, like body modifications, using that form of art as self-expression. So when I was 17, freshly moved out of my parents' house in my dorm room, I was Googling different ways on like to receive tattoos, and well, we call them hand poke, but when you look up something like that on Google, you get the little stick and poke, little smiley face things. So that's my first taste at, I guess, the form of hand poke when it comes to, I guess, that application. So I started doing that on and off when I was 17, and then my mom and our family friend, Lillian Trapper, they ended up going to the gathering that Isaac Murdoch and Christy Belcourt put on in Nimki Ashwakong. I forget what year that was. You remember, Crystal? Was that like
Oh
2017?
gosh, 2017, 2018?
Yeah, I think so. Um, and my mom, I wanted to go so bad, but I believe it was like during exam times for me, so I couldn't go. Um, and she was in there, it was in the bush, no service, 4 days long. And she came out and she said she was just amazed. Like it was just so like transformative and eye-opening because that was her first taste at that world too. And she said like, Jillian, like that could be you if you do that hard work and get yourself educated and you learn these techniques, like that could be you. And like I wasn't there, I didn't see it, but it was almost like I was because I was just so like visualizing how that went and everything that she talked about. I wasn't even there and I was so amazed. And so I've been practicing techniques, I guess I would say, since I was 17. So for about 8 years on and off. Sometimes people ask me like, oh, who taught you how to do this? And I just say myself, the land, just flowing with it. I did end up taking like a little crash course. I think that was in 2021, 2020, but I already knew a lot of the stuff leading up to that, but I am grateful that I took that crash course. But it took me a long time to feel like I'm in the place where I am now because I was living in my community, and I guess in like so-called Northern Ontario, there's not many of us who do this work. So for a long time, I felt like isolated in it, and I wasn't sure how to progress. I wasn't sure where to look for people who do this too. Like I think I knew of two people. So I just kept on searching and searching for people who do this work to see their techniques, to see where they're from, to see what their people are doing, what their people are receiving. And then I just tried to find my own style too. Like you can see people's story through their family story, through their families, communities, beadworks, regalia. You can see all of that through the work that they do. Like I find that uniqueness is what we present. People notice. I see a marking and I'm like, oh, I'll look and I'll know who did it based off of when I see it. And I think that's just so cool. But yeah, I'm just still growing and I'll be forever growing in this. So I think that it's been about 2 or 3 years now that I started getting to more of the traditional side of it. And it's been a very positive, uplifting thing for me. And I'm very grateful that I now feel accepted in this family of ours because what keeps you going, honestly, with this, it's beautiful. And I guess what inspires me, kind of like what Crystal said, like the people you meet along the way. And like I think that people's willingness, I enjoy I pretty much enjoy every marking or tattoo that I do, but the people who are in it, like deep in it, I guess the people who are willing to get what they need and not what they want is what inspires me the most. When I think about markings, I think about the sacrifice of it. When I first started, I was so, I guess, self-conscious with the way that I applied myself. I thought so hard, oh, I want to look like so good. Like I want to make sure my lines look like machine work. And that's good and all, but also when we do these markings, the way they come out is how they're meant to look. I used to strive for perfection, but when I was striving for perfection, I guess I lost connection in it too. So yeah, I think that just falling deep with it and it'll take you to some really good places. You'll experience a lot of growth in it. And I guess other things that inspire me are is my community, the lands of my family's communities, where all my family's from. I think about going to powwow when I was younger. I think about my family's beadwork, and of course, like different teachings and ceremony too. That's all inspiring to me. And what does marking revitalization mean to you? Of course, it means like bringing back old teaching and old ways, but to me, it's just having Indigenous folks feeling themselves. I don't know, like when I received my markings, I just was like, I'll talk about it more later on, but that was just such a pivotal point for me. Like I never felt more like myself ever. And I think that the confidence it brings you is like no other. And also just to be proud of who you are and to show people like no matter how hard people tried, like we cannot be erased. Our practices are never going anywhere.
Okay, this is me, way up in the Azusa Canyons and just outside of Los Angeles, California. This was just last fall, I believe. They had organized an Indigenous tattoo gathering in Pomona, California. Powerful, powerful space. Now we had 4 days of gathering. And this particular sister too had her own journey much similar to mine. And she was a frontline outreach worker for youth and gang prevention specifically. So how we're losing folks up here to opioid, a lot of youth are lost to gangs and gang-related violence down there. So she had come to me in the gathering. She was a helper there, and she said, "Sister, I'd like you to do my markings." And she had already seen these, and this is what I find. This is how I work. Every practitioner is different. There are practitioners out there that will see certain markings on you and bring those to life. For me, I want to make sure you've sat with this. So I asked her, I said, "Is this something you're just deciding here, or have you sat with this for a while?" She said, "No, I've been sitting with it for a while, sister." And I said, "Okay." And she goes, "But I want to go up to where we do ceremonies to do them." And I said, "Okay, I will go." And this is what I mean by responsibility, right? Somebody had mentioned when you look at something as a responsibility, how do you steer away from burnout? I think when you find your true role and your true gift and what you've been put here for, then and only then can you do that work without burning out. I am a helper. I've always known I'm a helper. Now, when I work as a helper within that Western framework of helping, I burnt out. My last role as coordinator, I burnt out 3 times medically on doctor leave and realized, hey, frontline harm reduction, although it's a heart place, it's my heart work. I feel connected to these people. This is not where I'm meant to be. So it's really listening where this is the thing about traditional tattooing is as much as, yes, it is very important work and we are helping people, it feeds me. So if you have a job in a role where you are helping people, but it is also feeding you, how many, not to tell everybody to leave Western helping institutions, if you can find a way to make it work, make it work. Gillian loves her role and her work, but she also loves this other role. So maybe that's her balance in both, walking in both of those. So here we are, we're in the Azusa Canyons, California, and we drove up far and we hiked down far. Like we had backpacks, we had bundles. She had her helpers down there. Peyote ceremony is big. So she had her ceremony brother come down with the water drum, peyote drum, come down there by the water. And we found this, you could see it in the corner there where we're standing, this little bed, perfect size for the both of us, like as if creator just opened this up and said, here, this is where you're going to be. And as I'm doing her markings, my feet are in the beach and we could hear that water. There's a river coming down the canyons behind us. And I had my tattoo sisters, Ipik was there as well. Mina had come up with us. We all gone up there and there was this support. It wasn't, it was this exchange, constant exchange of drumming, singing, support, smudge all around us in this work that we do. It was a beautiful experience to be a part of. It was powerful to see these markings come to life. This one where you see us standing by the beach together. I'm there singing a song as she's passing me her gift. And we're just, thanking the space creation for allowing us to be in this space and to nurture us into and through these markings. It was beautiful. So that question of burnout, that question of how do I avoid burnout, you find the work that as much as you're helping people, you're also feeding yourself. And Western helping tells us self-care is important. When I'm down in California, yeah, I get called down there for work, but I take time to drive slow. When we went to South Dakota, we took time to drive through the Black Hills. We took time to sit with that environment in that space. What I always found when I was working frontline is Juggernaut call it, or Western society calls it grounding. When you touch a tree, when you brush your hand up against that cedar tree on your way to work, And I had actually gone to see another helper, and she says, you connect a lot. And I said, I do. After sitting with her, I'm like, I do. I really do. I brush my hand against that tree. I sit and I hold space before I walk into that building. Um, and it's really kind of just advocating on what you need. You know what your spirit needs. Lots of time we don't listen. We don't listen to when we're getting tired. We don't listen to and shit, we have a hard time saying no. I had such a hard time saying no for so long. Yeah, I can do that. You know, if you're asking me to do it, you must think I'm going to do a good job at this. Western institutions don't often put us first. You know, um, and this is the beautiful thing about picking up those tools that we have, those medicines that we have to help us through this work, is they're there to keep us balanced and continue to work, right? Not everybody's journey is going to be like mine, but what I have come to see a lot is a lot of us give so much of ourselves in trying to help other people that we forget about us. I forgot about me. I forgot about me. And I would become bitter and resentful of the organization I was in, or these people who just, you know, all they expect so much of me, so much of me, so much of me. Because I was allowing that to happen. Shit, I was allowing that to happen. And once that shift happened, I didn't burn out as much. I'm here doing the work I've been called to do. Sometimes we're in shit. That last place looked like a church, eh? The Mama Tattoo Gathering. It looked like a big church. It was an auditorium of sorts, but it was a youth tattoo gathering here in Toronto. Native Youth Resource Center had hosted it. A team of I think we even have, I don't know if we have a picture of it on there later, but
Oh, we do.
beautiful, beautiful. My brother's like, holy, is this a church? I was like, it feels like a church. But you know what? You can have ceremony anywhere. It was not a church, by the way. It was like an auditorium. You can have ceremony space in your home. You can have ceremony space in your car before you're going into work. When you've had a rough time with a client, you go out to your car and you like that. I got this little travel smudge bowl in my car, this little baggie of wasn't always a little baggie of sage, but that's what I have in my car. You know what I mean? And it's there to help you. It's there to ground you. And that's all I gotta say. This experience was beautiful. This is etched in my mind and in my heart and in my spirit. And there's a connection you have there. There's a connection we have to the land. When I go back, I have family down there now, and I know those lands. Look at this. This was my feet were in the beach in the back there. We had sisters from Hawaii there as well, bringing her medicine. And it was just a powerful space of women. This is what I've also known too, because colonization has impacted our Indigenous communities so much. It is important to create, as a practitioner, I am learning. It is important to create spaces specifically for women. There have been a lot of women who have been harmed trying to find healing and connection and ceremony. To be aware of this when we're planning certain things. But there's also an importance of creating spaces where our men and women are equally balanced and gathering that healing in the same space. That youth gathering specifically for youth. Wow, that was powerful. And that's all I'm going to say about that because I can get carried away. Gillian.
Well, we got about 15 minutes left, so we're just gonna power right through this. Gonna be talking fast, so hopefully you can keep up with me. Yeah, I just wanna throw some honor to Crystal for keeping up with the POW trail all summer. You were, I don't know how you did it, but you give 100% all the time, and we all appreciate you, everyone across Turtle Island, I swear. So the picture on the left, Crystal and I are double teaming, tattooing my cousin Elwood Ashawaske. We were in Atikmashing. These were his first markings ever. So that was a very beautiful moment, and I'm glad that Crystal was there with me for that. And the picture on the right, I'm giving my grandmother, Clara, her first markings as well. Earlier in that year, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I have three siblings, so she has four grandchildren. We all got 4 dots on our ring finger, and we were saying, "Oh, we're gonna convince." We call her Coco. "Oh, we're gonna convince Coco to get these 4 marks on her ring finger." And so she did. This was in the community she grew up in, Ganabajing. My sisters were there, my brother was there. And just before that, Crystal actually gave my brother Leon his clan marking on his neck too. So that was a deadly day. She was like, oh, my grandma says, oh, maybe I'll get two tattoos. And she says, I want a blueberry. She's like a world star blueberry picker, that woman. She's getting older, unfortunately, but even last year, her 85th year, she's still out there blueberry picking. But yeah, that was very, very special and impactful. Um, so this is Time Negative 2022. Crystal was mentioning that she attended the gathering in 2021. That one was later in August, I think the end of August, eh? The first
Yeah.
one we had. Yeah, so this was the second annual one. And that was the first time I ever met Crystal in May 2022. The energy that one. So the picture on the far left is like the first time I exchanged words with her. She was giving a young woman her facial markings. I believe you're doing bear paws.
Mm,
I don't know if
yeah.
you remember that. Yeah. So that was the first time I ever seen Crystal uh, doing the work. It was awesome to see. The middle picture is I'm me with Dion Casas. That was right after I got my chin marking that he gave to me. I do want to elaborate on it more, but we don't have that much time. But yeah, that was a great moment, and I asked him for marking, and I said I told him my story why I wanted to get it. This marking was in May 2022, the long weekend, so I guess the second week in May. I struggled with addiction for a long time, and the May 1st is when I got sober, and I had been doing this work for a couple of years already, and I never felt like I could really be there for people 100% while I was still struggling like that. I told myself that I was going to get these markings, and I've been sitting with them for a while, and that by getting those, like I can never use again with these, and that by getting these, it's my commitment to do this work and to be there for myself and for other people. So yeah, I didn't choose what he gave me. He talked to me. I talked to him about my story, and he chose, and that's I think one of the most powerful things within this work. But yeah, and the picture on the right, we had a massive windstorm that year. It was crazy. So the picture's pretty small, but there's Tattoo Fam Keith. He's actually doing a marking in the middle of this crazy storm, and we're all gathered behind him, holding up these tarps so his stuff doesn't fly away. Oh, that was so crazy. And then this was this year. A lot of these, I think four people in this picture I had just met this year. It was absolutely amazing. I'm very much looking forward to this year. Hopefully, we never get group pictures, and I'm very grateful that we finally got a group picture.
Yeah.
And these are just a couple more of highlights from that time. That's my sister Neben getting marked by Gordon Sparks, I believe his last name is Gordon. They went away from the big tent and they did the marking in the field. That was very amazing. And then on the right is me getting a marking on my leg from Nahan using the tap tap technique. That was very intense, but forever grateful for that. Do you have any comments on this past year's gathering, Crystal?
I don't think so. Like they've just it's an amazing experience. And if you haven't been, I encourage people to come.
Yeah.
This is one of the things I find about being on the Power Trail, and I think Gillian, you can attest to this, is it's a bridge. I see myself as working that bridge into a lot of us, we know our clans, or we're able to have those conversations. I keep it simple, just clan markings, helper markings. I will not do face markings. I will not do ceremonial bands. Those we'll do at ceremony. We'll hold special space for those. Clan markings is beautiful because you get these young ones. You get these people like, what was dad's clan? You know, what was mom's clan? When's the last time you're renewing those kinship ties to family? I was like, call a lifeline. You know what I mean? When they're uncertain. And then we have these little And it's important to be inclusive. Somebody had mentioned the Two-Spirit. I think Gillian would be a good person to talk to about that specifically. That's the kind of medicine that I believe you bring in as well, Gillian. Like I said, every practitioner brings their own. We have Mel on here as well. She commented and introduced herself. She brings a whole realm of markings into this space as well. We have Inuit markings, and then we have Southern markings, and we all gather. There's so much medicine from different areas and lands in this space you see right here in this photo. And it's a beautiful exchange. It's a beautiful environment to be in. And that's what I would say about that. Woo.
Woo.
The tattoo gathering. This is the one that I taught. I told everybody looked like a church. My brother come in. He's like, "Are we in a church?" And it did. It had very churchy vibes, a feel, aesthetic, if you will. But we took it over, man. That was powerful. You know, it was like we had the drums there. This was a young woman coming into her face markings. And this is one thing I will put your Semon down if you want something, you know, ask creator, sit with it. Bringing those drums in, Gillian, you were here, this shift in being able to drum and sing for this young woman who was coming into her markings. She worked within the child welfare agency, and with youth, I think, specifically. And the tone and the energy within that space. Araya is an amazing youth, powerful voice, ceremony goer within Toronto here. And I call her in to help me bring these women into their markings. I don't do them lightly. I will not, you cannot say, come up to me and say, I would like these. I want to hear why. I want to hear why you feel ready for these. I started my Indigenous traditional tattooing and receiving my markings 4 years ago now. Only this year did I come to Gillian and say, I'm ready for my markings. Kind of who's we're like, when are you going to get your face markings? When are you going to get your face markings? And honestly, if I'm walking in my truth, there's a part of me that still wanted to live that other way, right? And I can't imagine going back into that space, looking and walking how I do. Down in California, when you've seen us, India Azusa Canyon, she sat with her helpers in that area, and he was very serious in talking with her in that you have to be ready for these, sister. You have to be ready because these markings carry a responsibility. And Isaac had shared that as well, Isaac Murdoch, that you have to make sure people are ready. Because if you're not, you could, I don't want to say I say messing up. I don't think that's the words he used. He wasn't that, but you have to be ready and committed to walk in your markings. There's the early writings of Ojibways having the face markings and whatnot. For me, when I walk in these, I'm asking my ancestors that have passed, long before me to come and help me in this work. I'm telling my ancestors I'm ready for whatever it is I'm supposed to do while I'm here. And it's not something to be taken lightly. I have told women, no. I have told many people, no, I will not do that. They go to somebody else, it's up to them, right? I know some people that have gotten markings in tattoo shops with a machine. You do whatever it is that you're called to do, I guess. But I take the markings very seriously, and it's a responsibility. And if I am just giving them away freely, for people who are not ready or committed, there's a part of me that is involved in that process. Who's to say my tire's not going to fly off? I don't know. I believe in that, right? What you put out to the universe is what comes back. If you're doing things in a good way, good things will come back to you. Again, very seriously. It took me a long time to feel committed enough to walk in my own markings. And these are markings that I've seen, markings that my tattoo sisters have seen on me. It's a commitment. It's a responsibility on part of the person who is bearing them, whatever your role is. Your struggles and your hardships and your challenges that you're meant to face will get tougher. Those battles you encounter will get tougher for reason and purpose, because you are now wearing markings that our ancestors have worn before us. Warriors, powerful medicine people who are now here. There's big work that needs to be done here. And that's how I see our markings. And I don't take it lightly. I will have you sit with me. And if there's even a little bit that feels uneasy in my spirit in talking to you, or if I sense a hesitancy, I will say maybe not right now. Come back to me in 3 months. Come back to me, in 6 months, and let's see where you're at or how we feel about this. And that's that.
That
We
was a
went
good point. These are just a couple of more pictures from that gathering.
youth gathered.
Yeah, that's
It
like
was powerful, man. You
um,
see Nolan back. Nolan's actually coming to Crash and Burn here in Toronto, the end of February. He's going to be in our space. Be good for you to come and visit, Gillian.
okay, so I kind of put together a bunch of history topics to talk about, but we have 2 minutes left. But we did honestly cover quite a bit throughout this that touches in all of these, honestly. I guess a good one out of here to talk about would be like the traditional protocol of it, and I know that we talked a lot about that throughout this. But I know Crystal and I share similar views, and when it comes to doing markings for people, more the traditional ones, because there is modernized markings or tattoos that we do. Like we do florals, we do I don't know other things that kind of represents where we're from. But I think when we talk about traditional ones, we always expect offerings, whether it be tobacco, any sort of medicine to add to our bundles. It doesn't have to be a big bag of tobacco, you just need 7 little flakes. It doesn't have to be anything big. And we always accept trades for these traditional markings. When it comes to facial markings, I don't accept money unless that's all you have, like I don't say you owe me this. Like it's whatever you want to bring to the table for that. Just your self-presentation and your preservation of your spirit. You gotta be strong to get these. But even any tattoo, any marking appointments, prepare yourself. You don't know what you might go through. We might be chatting and you might have a realization within yourself, and there you go, doors open. And I think we talked about what?
I think that's it too. I just bouncing off of your SEMA passing. I always get virtual SEMA passed when somebody reaches out to me on social media. I'm passing my virtual SEMA before they make a request. But yeah, trade often when you come to Tayandanega gathering, one of it is often half monetary and half trade. So I'm very specific with my trade. Every artist, if you're a quill worker, you're gonna want quills. I do a lot of beadwork, so a lot of my trades are in leathers. We get a lot of preservatives too. I'm always happy with that. Jams, jellies, things harvested from the land. I've done medicine tattoos for deer meat, moose meat. I have a tiny little freezer now, but things like that. I forget who it was that come to Tattoo Gathering a couple of years ago. He was talking about that. Not all the time can we do it in trade because moose meat's not going to fill my gas tank to get down here. There are modern day expenses that we do have, but the importance of honoring that traditional way of trade and bartering is still very much done with each of us, but also at tattoo gatherings as well. I always use sage, and always ask for sage too. But yeah, we really filled up that hour, didn't we?
We needed 3.
I definitely agree that you guys had so much to give, and I wish we had more time. Thank you so much, Crystal and Gillian, for joining us today, sharing your stories and your knowledge. It was truly good medicine. And just wanted to say thank you to everyone that joined us today during your lunchtime. There was really great comments and questions, engagement, and we truly appreciate it. And I hope you had a great time and enjoyed this month's topic. So, Anishik, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
You too. Bye,